Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back, Crushers, and I hope that you are absolutely crushing today and this week, coming back from the holiday, feeling good, feeling full. Today's episode is a really fun one with a pal of mine, Rico, be a fucking shark, Incarnati. And right at the top of the episode, I do want to warn you that there is a mention of suicide in this episode in Rico's personal story. So if you would like to skip past that, skip to around 10 to 12 minutes in, and then he starts to talk about what happened in his life after that, getting into the gym, and then how he became the videographer and photographer that he is today. I met him through the Nutrition Coaching Institute at a live event, having known him from one of my favorite fitness experts on Instagram. He had filmed for him. And so then I got to meet him in person, and he's such a down-to-earth guy, loves to advocate for mental health. We talk about getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. We talk about imposter syndrome. We talk about the great Instagram and Facebook outage of October 2021, because that's when this was recorded. Literally, Instagram and Facebook were shut down at the time that we were having that chat. So we talk about that a little bit, have a little laugh about it. And we talk about taking action, showing up. We talk about how does Rico keep himself grounded these days, and a lot of stuff in between. His own personal motto is be a fucking shark, and he explains why in this episode. So stay tuned. It is a fun, wild conversation, takes a few different turns here and there. Without further ado, here is Rico Incarnati. Welcome, Rico, to the Crushing with Abby O podcast.
Thank you, Abby. Well, we were just talking about how you're a little over caffeinated, and I've talked about like how I've had to like bring it down a little bit. I'm just a one espresso in the morning, one espresso in the afternoon kind of guy. That's it. Easy.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Not too bad.
No,
keeps you at an even pace throughout the day.
Yeah. I mean, considering I used to consume almost 1,000 milligrams of caffeine, the 120 a day is now a little bit more manageable.
Wow. I'd be dead.
A whole nother story.
I'd be seizing in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just dive in, because when I first heard your personal story, I was like very touched by that. And I always think it's cool. Like, you know, I knew you as a photographer and videographer for Jordan Syatt. Mm-hmm. And so meeting you and then hearing your story, I was like, wow, that's super cool. And so I would love for you to share just some of your personal story with the audience, and the personal and then professional side, like how you got into being a photographer and videographer.
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And anyone that's listening, thank you for listening. I always want to say, like, I want to do a better job of this now, is just thanking people for listening, because it's like time is the most valuable asset that we have in this world. And the fact that you're choosing to spend your time listening to this, I can't thank you enough.
Absolutely agree. And thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So great little backstory. So I've been doing this whole social media videography thing for the past 4 years. And I originally started, actually, hang on, what's today's date? Today's October 4th. Okay. So we're closing in on 5 years next year, which is insane to me. And so quick backstory. I actually never wanted to be a videographer, photographer, never had any intention on being one. I wanted to become a pediatrician. And my goal since I was, a teenager, 13, 14, I wanted to become a pediatrician, mainly because, and I came to a realization with this, with, going to therapy and everything, that I was doing it to appease my father and be the doctor that like he built me up to be. Let's just say that. And when I was 14 years old, right, like that's when I started high school. That's when I was in freshman year. And I don't know if like anyone listening or if Abby, if you remember this, but like in high school, they have series of tests, right? So junior year, you take your ACT. I think senior year, you can take the SAT.
Mm-hmm.
But like freshman year, there's like the explore test. That's what we called it in our school. And then sophomore year is like the plan test. These didn't count any, like against any grade. No colleges looked at these. They didn't care about them. This was just more so like to get a gauge to where you were at, right? And so for me, when I took these tests, they were like career placement tests. And for me, what I did was I never answered what was true to me. I always answered what would be good on paper for my father to see that I was supposed to be a doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would answer things that would be like, oh well, that's how a doctor would answer that. Oh yeah, do you like helping people? Absolutely. Do you like the medical field? Love the medical field, right? When in reality, I'm like, oh, like again, I wanted to be a doctor myself, but I was almost taught like building up this story that like, oh, I have to become this doctor already at like 14. And so taking on this persona was super intimidating. And so all throughout high school, like I took, advanced placement, health science class. I got my certified nursing assistant license at 17, junior year. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna really do this thing, right? But meanwhile, over the time, like my father had built me up to become a doctor. And every time people would see me, specifically family friends, it would always be referred to as Enrico the doctor, right? Oh, like, oh, it's Enrico, the doctor. And I'm like, I'm 17. I'm not like, not yet. Like, we got a long time.
Wow.
But
That's a lot of
but mind
expectation to put on
exactly.
someone.
Exactly. And so even at that age, there was just a lot of expectation that I'm like, oh boy, like I need to be this doctor now, and it's like this overwhelming feeling where you feel this a level of anxiety because you're like, hang on, I am so far removed from being a doctor, and it's like at least the next another 10 more years. But the fact that my identity is already this at 17, I'm like overwhelming. And
Mm-hmm.
so even throughout senior year, and even going into freshman year of college is when I started kind of not giving kickback, but I started realizing, okay, this isn't what I want to do. This isn't for me. This is more for my dad. Right. And so long story short with this, I had to have a conversation with him because there was a piece of content on Instagram that I saw from Gary Vee, right? That he talked about not appeasing your parents in the short term. So then that way you can have long-term relationship with them. What he means
Mm-hmm.
by that is sometimes like for 2 to 4 years, there might be a level of discomfort because you're choosing to do what you want to do and not what they want you to do or expect you to become. But for the rest of your life, you don't resent them and you have a great relationship, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that hit me at the exact perfect time. And this is why I love just life in general, because it's like things come at you out of nowhere. And it's like, I'm like, this found me at the right time. And so that moment, I'm like, fuck, I got to have a conversation with my dad. And it was a tough conversation because I don't even remember it fully, but all I know is that I'm like, Dad, I just don't want to do this anymore. And my Italian father, who was like, cool, now what? Right. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I have no clue. And in his mind, he's like, okay, well, why are we paying for you to go to college? Like to figure yourself out. Like, I don't need to pay that. And I'm like, okay. Like, well, just let me figure it out. Right. Let me just figure this out. And so for the next few months is when I went to a deep just depression and like, um, it was an identity shift because I literally lost who I was and I'm trying to find who I am now. And it's like, I don't know who I am, you know? And for those periods, like that's when it was a dark time because I was in a relationship then. And like she knew exactly what she wanted to do. And I compared myself to her. Everyone else that I was in school with, they knew what they wanted to do. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, fuck, I don't know what I want to do. Right. And so my mind went to an extreme. I didn't know better. And I just felt this overwhelm and I felt this just how do I say it, overbearing anxiety to where I didn't know what to do. I felt so crippled by anything, right? And mind you, I defaulted to a communication major and just kind of was, treading through. But that's around the time when I attempted suicide, because I lost all identity. I had lost all hope or want because, mind you, it's like when you're being built up as someone that you're not supposed to be, or someone that you're supposed to be, but then you no longer want to be that person. It's a huge mind fuck. It's a huge identity shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that I had that conversation early on because I would rather not, I would rather be where I'm at now than be in a position to where I could have been trying to pursue becoming a pediatrician right now, but I'm so resentful to my father, right? I'm so resentful
Mm-hmm.
to my mother. I'm so resentful to my family because it's not what I wanted to do. Um, and so that for me was a really big turning point. And like my relationship went to shit, like um
And
rock
how
bottom, right?
how how old were you?
I was 20, 20. Yeah, I was 20.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, because we're coming up. And so for me, like that was a moment where I mean, again, like I'm super open about it. Like that's why I'm such a big fan of mental health, and I'm a huge advocate. And that's why I have this tattooed right here. It says Forza on my inner wrist, because for me, that's strength, and translated into English from Italian, that means strength. And so for me, that's always a reminder that like you're strong, like you can do hard shit. You know what I mean? And so that's why I have that tattoo, and that's why it resonates so well with me. And so, like to wrap up that little, I don't want to like make light of it, but like to wrap up after those past few months, that's when I got into YouTube more, and specifically like into fitness. Right, I took my fitness seriously. I was getting in the gym, going to work out whenever I could, and like I would skip class to go work out because I'm like I just want to go to the gym. And I found myself watching YouTubers, specifically in the fitness space, specifically Christian Guzman, who was a massive inspiration, and I've met him a couple times. But if I ever sit down with him, when I will in the future, I would love to tell him the story that like you literally helped me become who I am, because without watching your videos, I never would be where I'm at. And so I saw he was vlogging, and I'm like, oh, I want to do this vlogging thing. This is cool. And so I started it. Like I literally went that weekend to pick up a GoPro at Best Buy. I think it was like a GoPro 3. And if you go back to my first YouTube video, like which was almost 5 years ago, I vlogged, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm like, I'm gonna figure it out, right? And it was so awkward to see it now, but I'm like, that's what I thought was cool.
What did
And
you capture? What were you vlogging? Just like your
yes,
everyday, or?
so my first ever video was like an introduction to who I was. And like the beginning of it is me making oatmeal, and like it's like protein oats and like what I put in it. And it was like a voiceover. And then it was me going to the gym, explaining what I was going to do. And then footage of me like walking into the gym where you see my feet here. And then
Well,
footage
this
in
is
the
how we
locker
all
room.
start. I mean,
Yeah,
this is
that's
how
it.
it
Like
starts. I need to
you
go back and
just,
watch it. I love that. It's so cute.
yeah, you just start, right?
Yeah.
And it's that concept of just taking messy action. I didn't know what I want to do. It wasn't perfect, but I'm just going to start.
Mhm.
And so I did that for a few years, like for a few months. And an opportunity presented itself later on where I had been following Christian Guzman, like I said, for a few months at that time, and he was hosting a live summer shredding event. Essentially what that was is you dieted down and you competed against everyone. And you went to Houston to celebrate, right? Because that's where his gym was. And so went to Houston, Texas, met a lot of people that I know online in the fitness space and everything. And I met one guy, his name was Zach, Zach Rocheleau, the Flexible Dieting Lifestyle on Instagram. That's his Instagram handle.
Mhm.
And I knew of him then. And so we just exchanged numbers and just kind of like, oh, cool, man, like super cool to meet you, whatever, yada, yada. He sent me a free like link to one of his cookbooks, and it was cool. And then I believe 3 to 4 weeks later, he was looking for a videographer to come out to LA with him for 5 days because he needed to film some content. I replied to his story, and I'm like, hey man, would love this opportunity. Mind you, I didn't tell you this. I had just gotten hip surgery. Like I literally just had my hip labral repaired.
Oh.
And I was 2 weeks out of surgery, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this. And my mother and father are looking at me like, you just got surgery, like you're not going, you just got surgery, you're not going. I'm like, no. If I get this, I'm going.
Yeah.
And so that whole DM exchange happened to where he was like, hey man, like, can you find your way out here? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, why should I choose you over the other two guys that I have that are more experienced? I'm like, because I'll work harder than both of them combined. I don't care. And so he's like, all right, cool. Like find your way to LA. I'll meet you here. Yeah, whatever. Cool. And like the next 5 days we filmed, and then that turned into a full-time role for the next year. And then after that is when I went to move on to work with Jordan Syatt. And Jordan was the same way. Like he was looking for a videographer, and replied to his story on his Instagram, and he knew of me because I met him at an event with Zach. There's a lot of things I didn't fill in. That's my bad. I
No
met
worries.
Jordan at an event when I was with Zach in LA again, separate trip, which was cool because I knew of him through Gary and everything. So we exchanged. He followed me, followed him back, whatever. And then when he was looking for a videographer, 2018, around this time, which is actually going to be a year. So Jordan called me November 1st of 2018. And he's like, bro, you want to move to New York City? I'm like, yep. No
So
hesitation.
cool.
No hesitation.
I
And
love
so then I went to go film with him for a little bit, for like a couple weeks. And then like I went to go to his apartment for like 3 days because it's the first time ever in New York to get to know each other. And then I moved to New York beginning of January. Worked with him for 2 years, and now here I am. I own my own production company. And yeah, I mean, I work with a lot of people in the fitness space, and I work with your mentor, Jason.
Yeah.
And I work with other people that have YouTube channels, Instagrams, other coaches. And now I help mentor coaches to help build their socials, like their TikToks, Instagram, Facebooks, YouTubes, all that. I still work hands-on filming and editing. And that's where we're at today, 2021 and October 4th.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back and just acknowledge that you had a really, really tough conversation with a parental figure at a really young age to tell them that you didn't want to do something that they had been expecting of you your whole entire life. And a lot of people they don't get there, or they spend so much time not speaking up for themselves and not saying that. And that's super, super fucking huge.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, commend you for that.
Thank you.
It's something that like I've had to learn how to do myself, even like recently in my life. And I'm quite a bit older than you. So like being able to even if you didn't know what you wanted to do, being able to just speak your own truth right there, like fucking monumental. And yes.
And that's tough. And Abby, that's tough for a lot of people, right? Because a lot of people, what they do is they would rather stay where they're at as opposed to actually making a change. Again, this is why I love working with people in the fitness space, because they can relate to this with their clients and even people that are looking to be on a fitness journey or wanting to start one, right? Like people would rather stay where they're at because it's comfortable, because it's easy, because there's no conflict, right? Because there's no how do I say it?
Getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, right. That's exactly the word. There is no getting uncomfortable. It's always about just staying the same, staying in your comfort zone, which again, I think like isn't bad, right? I've had to learn to be okay with, because I'm the person that I'm like, I love to take risks, love to be uncomfortable, but you have to essentially, like, there's a level of comfort within an uncomfortable zone, right?
Yes, exactly.
I've been comfortable with getting uncomfortable. Let's just say that, but there is a level of comfort with that. But a lot of people, what they do is they stay in a level of comfort that doesn't move them or doesn't allow them to grow, right? And so that's the issue, is that most people would rather stay there and not have any conflict, not get uncomfortable, because it's easy and it's convenient, right? And so that's where I think a lot of people go wrong. And I think more people need to speak up for who they are, what they want, and just be open and honest about that. And that just comes down to communication.
And that is it's also the perception of that discomfort.
Yeah.
I mean, our bodies like react to stress the same, really, no matter what it is. But if you can perceive that in a different way, like, yes, there's bad stress, there's stress that you need to run from, and then there's stress that's maybe challenging you. And it's something where your nervous system's just been keeping you safe. That there was like a moment where like something confronted you and you needed to be in that fight or flight mode, but then it's like, now it's not a necessary response. And now we need to like push past that. And I think that that's what I want to talk about next is like what's holding a lot of people back, is like feeling that response and then feeling kind of freaked out by it. And then they just freeze and then they don't move forward. But if we can take those little steps at a time, eventually that comfort zone grows. It's just like putting in the reps in the gym. That comfort zone grows. And what was once super uncomfortable to you like 2 years ago, now you're like way more comfortable doing it. You don't even think twice about it. And your challenges that you face now, they're not quite as big as they would have been maybe like 2 years ago.
Yeah. And that's how we see most people, like even in the fitness space, right? Where it's like stepping on the scale for them is like so fearful, right? To where they're like, oh my God, I never want to step on the scale. That number doesn't define me. Like, I never want to look like, you're right. That number doesn't define you. Amazing. Cool. But do you think it's a good idea that we should still step on the scale? Because even though you're scared of it, do you think it's a good idea to overcome that fear, or should we always be fearful of the scale, right? Because if it's just a number that doesn't define you, then you shouldn't have any fear towards it, right? Same thing with people that make content, where it's like on camera, right? It's like, okay, cool, like you have a fear of being on camera, but should that then justify you not being able to reach more people and help more people? Like we have to choose our heart and choose what we want to make as discomforting or as comfortable as we want, right?
Absolutely.
And so it's like the same thing with people that step on the scale. It's like, you do it once, cool, then you do it twice. It's like it's the same thing with, like you said, getting in the reps at the gym. It's the same thing with filming on camera too, or filming yourself, making any type of content. It's like you got to get in the reps, whether that's stepping on the scale, like I said, whether that's bench pressing, whether that's even just going to the gym, whether that's putting on different clothes, right? Because you don't feel as comfortable in them. Cool, like, but it's motivation to want to get better, right? Whether that's filming one video or taking one photo. And it's like a lot of people, they don't look at that as any monumental progress, but it's like you have to look at the compounding interest over time, right? It's the reps over time that actually matter. But a lot of people get caught up in the minute details, thus they don't take action, right? Like one of my favorite examples to use is with people, with fitness coaches, because they relate to this when it comes to content, right? When a client of yours steps on the scale and their weight goes up, do you freak out with them? Or do you tell them, no, this is going to be part of the process. You probably ate more salt than usual yesterday. You probably had more carbs. You may be holding on to more water. Did you travel? Are you stressed? Amazing. Then so there's no reason to get frustrated. It's not a justification to freeze and not take any more action and continue. So, I mean, you can either choose to quit or we can keep going, right? But as the coach, you're like, okay, cool. Like the scale went up. Amazing. We're going to keep going. And guess what? It might go down again and you might drop 5 pounds. Doesn't mean shit. I don't want you to get excited about it because it's probably going to go back up again and we're going to be right back where we are today. Right. Same thing with video content. A lot of coaches, they get frustrated now, like people that I like to work with, they get frustrated when like, well, I had a video go nuts, but the other one didn't. And I'm like, hang on. Isn't this the same thing you tell your clients when when their weights go down, but yet when their weight goes up, like you don't freak out because you know the goal is to stay on the same trajectory. Same thing with your content. I don't want you to get too caught up in one video performing as well or one video not performing as well. Keep going, keep getting in the reps in, keep filming content, keep weighing in on the scale, right? Keep eating your vegetables, keep drinking your water, keep doing the little things that actually matter. But yet we focus on the numbers and we focus on all the shit that actually really doesn't. And it's like, then we get caught up in not looking at the little details that we can actually control. And we succumb to, not taking action, like you said, freezing and being like, oh, fuck, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, we tie our self-worth to it, like the metrics, the numbers. I mean, today, as we're recording this podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp are all down. There's nothing to tie your worth to right now, unless you're killing it on TikTok. Like you have TikTok, you have other platforms, which we talked about, that like diversifying, but it's like, actually, this is kind of a break. It's not just you that's having the issue. It's everyone else too. Like we can now disconnect a little bit and just take a break from it.
Yes. But I'll also say this, because this is very important for a lot of people to understand. You'll look at someone on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and you'll be like, oh, they have like a blue check. They got 500,000 followers or 1 million followers. Right now in 2021, October 4th at 4:35 p.m., that doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, none of that means shit because Instagram's down. Facebook is down. The time we're recording this, it's down. Like, I can't wait to come back on this podcast in like 3 years from now and reflect on it. None of that shit matters right now. So it's like, I understand where it's like taking a break and all that, but it's like, everybody looks at that and it's like, well, that's like the epitome of what like I want. Okay, really? Because right now that doesn't mean shit to people.
And why? And you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you want that? Because what do you perceive that as? Like you made it? Like what? What's next?
Because people perceive that as a symbol of social status. They perceive it as a symbol of notoriety and recognition. When in reality, I know some of the people with the largest followings are some of the most miserable fucking people because and I can promise you this, because at a certain point, when you have a lot of attention, when you get, and mind you, when you have attention, like it's amazing. And it's like, it's a great thing to have. Like you can do whatever you want with it. Right. But I know some people that are just miserable with it because no matter what you do, you'll get criticized for it. And that wears on people. Right. And so I completely understand that, but also understanding like that comes with the territory of building a big audience. But like I say, it doesn't matter. Like right now at the time of this podcast doesn't fucking matter because those platforms are down. And so those numbers that you associate people with, you associate them with a number and a certain status because they have a fucking blue check mark, when in reality it doesn't mean shit. Right. And it's like, people want that though, because they perceive that as successful, when in reality, people that have a shit ton of followers probably don't have a business, probably aren't making as much money, but they look hot, right? And so you look at it as a way of, okay, well, this is how I need to be because I get this result, aka followers, aka types of messages, whatever you perceive that as. But it's like, you have to ask yourself why. You know what I mean? Like, are you actually making an impact on people's lives? Are you actually making a difference on people's lives? Like, or are you just look hot? You know what I mean? And so I think having an honest conversation with that, this is a whole nother rant that we're getting into right now, about just platforms being down. But like, again, this is why I say like diversify yourself on other platforms. Get on YouTube, get on TikTok, get on freaking Pinterest, get on, your article game, your website, like your email list, your podcast, because it's like, it's important, right? Like imagine if you only relied on Facebook and Instagram as an influencer or like as a business owner, you're fucked. You're fucked.
And I sent to Jason, I was like, well, I'm really glad I sent an email out today, regardless of how my live turns out tonight. I'm glad that I had my emails sent out with the Zoom link. It's nothing is tied to Facebook really, So
Mhm. Yeah.
it's just another reminder.
Of course it is. And this is why I talk about where it's like, what we talked about in like the one day event, right? Where it's like, when you build attention, what are you doing with it? Amazing. Are you moving them to stuff that you own? Because we don't own Facebook, we don't own Instagram. And when shit like this happens, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, and so to bring that back to like something that people can relate to, like on an everyday scale, is like a lot of people are tying that emotionally to themselves, and they might be worried, they might be freaking out about their future, about their business, and what's that going to do to everything. And that could happen like when somebody's account gets hacked too, which, I mean, the thing is people put a lot of hard work into all of this, so I can totally understand it. But again, that's just kind of another reason to diversify. And just like with the scale, or because that's a data point, right? Just sort of separating that, the business and the emotional part. It's super, super hard to, when you've worked for something, so hard for something. And with weight loss, when you're working so hard for something, it's so hard to see that happen. But it's just sort of tuning in and checking yourself. And you said this last week in your live when we were talking about imposter syndrome, is just like snapping your fingers and just kind of creating some, like bringing yourself back to awareness of what has actually happened versus like the stories that you're creating in your head about what you think is happening based on the number on the scale or what's going on social media. Because somebody can build like a social media following very largely, and get into like a routine where they feel like it's only if, like, especially for girls, like, well, I get way more likes if I post something that, is like more sexy, or I'm in my swimsuit. But when I'm trying to like educate, it's not. But like, you really have to, like know where you want to go with that. And you have to be okay with what you're getting, or stop doing it, change it, build the business that you want, build the attention that you want. I don't know. I think I just sort of like disconnected all of that, but I was trying to connect it.
No. That makes sense. And again, a lot of it has to do with the ego, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with your ego. Like
where we're going.
that's a big thing. Like whether that's feeling like an imposter with what you're doing. And I talked about this, and I'll relate back to it. I like creating auditory responses, right? So a snap for me is a way to be like, nope, snap the fuck out of it, right? But it's I can hear it and I can see it and I can feel it, right? And so whatever that is for you, if you need to clap, if you need to stomp your foot, like if you need to like literally scream, I don't know, or whatever you need to do, like creating an auditory response to where when something happens and you might be, I don't know, if you're triggered by it, or if you become like, how do I say it? Triggered is a good word, or if like
if you go down like a rabbit hole of like the negative thought process, if it creates that like spiral.
It creates that spiral. And so that auditory response, or whatever that is, that snap for me is a way to be like, nope, snap out of it. Yes. But it's a distraction point. It's a way to like, oh, I'm catching myself. Nope. Pausing right there, stopping what I'm doing and changing the course of my thoughts. Right. And so going back to what you were talking about with the imposter syndrome, like when it comes to like the scale or your content, and like you said, all data points, right? We need to actually separate the facts versus the feelings, right? And so what are the facts about your weight loss journey, right? It's like, oh, you are losing weight, amazing, but you feel shitty and you feel fat. But it's like, okay, well, the scale says otherwise, the data says otherwise, that we're going the direction that you want. So it's like, is this still the old story that you're telling yourself because you're conditioned to do that? When in reality, it's like, you look significantly better, your pants fit way better, your shirts fit way better, like you're having more sex, like whatever that is, you know what I mean? It's like, we have to actually look at it as like, hang on, you still feel this way because is that an old story you're telling yourself, or is that something that like is actually true? And same thing with what I talk about, like imposter syndrome, is like, you can feel like inadequate. You can feel like, oh, no one's going to listen to my videos. I feel so stupid. I feel dumb. I like, okay, cool. Like amazing. Is that the actual truth? Or do you just feel that temporarily because you saw something that triggered you on social media, that then now you're in a rabbit hole of spiraling down a negative path to where now you're like, well, they're doing better without me, like, or they're doing better than me because they have a higher following count, or they have a blue check mark, or they get more people that like their stuff. And it's the same thing with people that lose weight. It's like, well, Janice in accounting looks way better, and well, Janice has this and everything. It's like, well, you're not fucking Janice, right? It's like Janice has a different life than you. And it's like, stop comparing your progress and stop comparing your results to other people, because it doesn't fucking matter. Your life is different, their life's different, but yet we still want to compare books to books, but it's like, hang on, we have completely different stories. And by the way, we're in different fucking chapters of our life. So you have no right to compare that.
Absolutely. Let me like bring this back to kind of the topic that I was kind of the overall theme was that the reason that this is important to acknowledge, address, and work to overcome is because by sharing your story and your gifts with the world, you can make a bigger impact on other people's lives. No matter what it is that you're doing, you can also make a bigger impact on your own life. Like if you can step outside of that and step into who you are really supposed to become and grow into that person and stop being like so afraid, you can not only greater impact other people's lives, but yourself as well. You can grow as a person and then teach other people how to do the same thing or be a better leader at work or just be better in your relationships. And that's why I think that's so important. That's why I love the conversation around imposter syndrome, because I know a lot of like my colleagues, coaches, they suffer from this. And I know that people that not just in business, but they just are holding themselves back because they're just afraid to step beyond that. And so the next step for overcoming imposter syndrome, like, don't you think is to take action? Or is it really like, do we need to have clarity first and then awareness and then take action? I mean, that's pretty good too.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say this. I'm always a big fan of just taking action, because any form of action, and a lot of people are like, well, what type of action do I take? It's very vague, right? And it's like, okay, cool. Let me explain. So when I say taking action and also like messy action, right? Like those are two different things. Messy action is action that you take when you're not ready, when you're the utmost uncomfortable, when you are the least prepared, but you do it anyways, right? And so that may look like for you when you're like, well, I'm going to wait until the new year to start my weight loss journey because it's a fresh slate for me. But it's October 4th. We have 3 months until then. Don't you think if we started now, you might see some good results? Right? Like, don't you think right now? But why do we want to wait till then? Is it because, well, that's when I'll have more clarity. That's when I'll be ready to take action. You're not going to fucking be ready to take action. So anyone listening to this, by the way,
you're going to be tired from the holidays.
Not even that, but when January 1st comes around, you'll lose the fucking motivation, right? You're like, well, I'll be more motivated then. Bull fucking shit. No, you won't be. I promise you, you won't be. That's a story you're telling yourself. When in reality, you could take action now, and guess what? Get this. When New Year's comes, you can be a whole different person right now in 2 months. I guarantee you can be. But
absolutely.
you want to use the excuse of, well, it's the holidays. I'm going to wait until next year and then I'll start over again. No. These are stories you're telling yourself because you're waiting for the right time to take action, when in reality, you're not ready right now, but you need to do it anyways, right? And what that may look like for you. Maybe instead of at lunch when you go to the office, and instead of eating the donuts, maybe you have a salad for lunch, right? And instead of going out to work and everybody's getting steaks, hamburgers, and all this and everything, mind you, like, that's why I love nutrition coaches, because you can find a way to work that in. But taking action towards like, okay, maybe I won't have that today. Maybe I'll just have a grilled chicken salad and that'd be my meal, right? Making smarter choices. Maybe instead of, this is a Diet Coke, maybe instead of drinking a full Dr. Pepper today, maybe I'll opt for the diet version of it, right? Maybe I'll replace that with a water today, right? Like, these are the actionable steps you can take. Again, the small stuff. These aren't big things. I'm not asking you to go deadlift 500 pounds. I'm not asking you to go squat 300 pounds. I'm just asking you to take small little actions of stuff that you can actually control right now, right? And so stuff like that, for some people, might not look like a lot, but I guarantee you, if we go take a walk for 5 minutes and then compound that every day, like for 7 days, you had 35 minutes of exercise for the week. Isn't that better than zero? I think so, right? So it's like looking at little things like that, but a lot of people don't look at it like that. It's going to help you in the long run. And it's like, if we start that now, when you're not ready, you'll get motivated. You'll see a result. You'll get motivated. You'll take more action. That's the same thing. You take action. You see a result. You're like, ooh, hang on. I did this. My digestion feels better now because I had a salad. I'm pooping better and I feel better overall. I have more energy. Ooh, I like this result. I'm more motivated now because I see a change. I want to take more of that action. And it loops and it loops and it loops. Most people think, well, I'll take action when I'm motivated. You're never going to fucking be motivated. I'm not motivated to go work out today. Like, I would rather not, but I know if I keep telling myself the stories of why I don't want to work out, I won't work out. And then when I go to bed tonight, I'll be pissed at myself because I didn't do what was going to make me the most proud. And that was working out, because that's me time. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so at the end of the day, do what's going to make you the most proud, because you have to sleep at night. And if you can't, and you're not doing what's going to make you the most proud, then you need to have an honest conversation with yourself as to why you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like to also focus on something that you said, was that things that you're in control of right now. And so many, like you said, so many people look at all of the things that they need to, that they think they need to do, when in reality, in your daily life, like, well, what can you fit in right now? What are you in control of right now? And sometimes that shifts from season to season, maybe week to week, but there's always things that, like, I like to talk about non-negotiables, like things that you can always have in your life or in your schedule that serve you and that push you forward towards your goal. And I don't care if it's 10 minutes of working out or 30 minutes of working out, or if it's just fucking walks that week. Like, if that's
Yeah.
moving you forward, then that's what we're going to do right now. And there's always more that we are in control of than we think that there is. Like, there's always more that we can do. Like, there's not so much that's really out of our control. Like, even stress, there's a lot of outside stress, but we can choose how to respond to it. We can choose how to take care of ourselves in response to that stress too. So I love that. And also, motivation is a fickle bitch. Like,
Yeah.
she just needs to be kept on a leash by discipline, and then we'll be fine.
Amen. I love that.
Like, I haven't been very motivated either, but I go do it. And when I can, I push myself a little bit more I've got like a tiny little goal for a solid 3 sets of 25-pound dumbbell seated press. That is like one tiny ass goal that I have right now. Cause some weeks I'm just like, I can't get them. But and some weeks I do, and sometimes it's deadlifts, and sometimes it's a lot of weight. Right now it's mostly
Yeah.
maintenance because my focus
Good.
is like elsewhere. But
Good.
anyway, seasons of life. And I think that people need to know that too. It's like, there's going to be ebbs and flows, and there's going to be times that you're really not feeling shit, and there's going to be times when you're totally on fire. It's the same with making content. It's the same with wanting to go out and socialize or date. It's the same thing with growing a business or losing weight. There's just going to be times when you're on and times when you don't want to do it, but you still just kind of have to, because that's the way life is. That's
Yeah.
how you go. That's how you reach your goal eventually. It doesn't matter how fast. It just matters that you're taking action every day towards it.
Well, also I'll say this: it's a level of priorities, right? It's not
Mhm.
it's not necessarily a motivation thing or an action thing. It's just a level of priority, right? It's like, if you're a mother of 3 and you really want to work out 5 days a week, but that's not practical for you because you got to take little Susie to volleyball practice, or you got to take Mike to basketball, you got to take Sarah to soccer. It's like, cool, like, you need to be in parent mode right now, right? Like, you can't
Mhm.
be in fitness mode right now. That's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's a matter of priorities. You're not a bad person for not prioritizing your fitness. Like, you're a great human being because you're prioritizing your time for your children, right? It's
Mhm.
like, it comes in ebbs and flows, like you said, seasons. And it's like, I mean, right now school's back in session. Kids are going to practice and whatnot, and it's like, if you can fit in the time for the gym, or let's say you don't have time for the gym, but you're able to get 5 minutes of extra or 15 minutes of walking as opposed to a full workout, amazing. Like, that's better than
Mhm.
nothing, right?
Yeah.
It's different, like you said, it's different levels of priorities. But it comes in seasons. And just understand, like, don't punish yourself for it, but like, understand, okay, cool, why am I actually prioritizing more time here? Oh, because I'm trying to be a better parent. Like, I wouldn't follow you for that. Like, if you told me, like, hey, Enrico, I couldn't get to the gym today, or I couldn't make content today because I had to go, be with my daughter for whatever, I'm like, I would rather you be parent. Like,
Yeah.
that takes the precedent, right?
The TikTok
Versus,
video can wait.
yeah, it's like, hey, Enrico, I had to take my daughter to soccer because I arranged a carpool with her friend, but the friend's mom got sick and I had to take them, so I couldn't make the TikTok. I'm like, okay, like, I would rather you like, like, I appreciate you being super aware and honest with me about that, but B, like, you go be mom. I'd rather you go do that. I don't
Yeah.
need you being TikTok right now on making nutrition content and fitness content. Like, I'd rather you go be mom, go take care of that.
But we get so hard on ourselves, and it's that perfectionism. And this kind of goes back to imposter syndrome a little bit too, is like people not doing something because they think it needs to be perfect. The anticipation of like failure, the fear of failure, and this need for everything to be perfect. And what I think that is linked back to is basically like your origin story, is just like heavy expectations, the stories that we create, and the expectations of other people that we allow to affect us and essentially just hold us back from like really blooming into what we can be.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people look at perfectionism as like their gospel or the thing they need to live by, because it's like, well, if it's not perfect, then what's the point, right? And it's like, this is the exact same thing that I just talked about, where it's like, well, if I can't get in my 60-minute workout, what's the point of walking for 15 minutes, right? And it's like, well, again, isn't something better than nothing? It's the same example of like, if you could only fill your tank up a quarter of the way, isn't that better than not being able to fill it up all the way? Like if you can't fill it up all the way, but you can fill it up a quarter way, isn't that better than it being on empty?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, but everyone's, well, no, if it's not filled up perfectly, then I can't drive. It's like, well, that's not the truth. It's like, if something is always better than nothing, right? Like in any aspect, any form of life, but everyone gets so crippled by, well, it needs to be perfectly done. It needs to look polished. It needs to look like super nice. And I'm like, well, that's bullshit, because that doesn't exist. That, again, that's just a story that you're telling yourself, because, and I could be wrong, but I'm usually not. But it's because
is that the Italian coming out right now?
Yeah, but it's because you want to find more excuses to not take action and to feel sorry for yourself, right?
Yeah. There's because people don't want to face like what's really going on there. Because sometimes it's like that. I'm not gonna say deeper, but there's that. Like people don't want to, they want to keep making excuses and they want to stay where they're at because it's so much. Sometimes like the thought of changing seems so overwhelming and hard. But there's also like there's so much conditioning and there's so much like bullshit like laden in that, and just self-worth and like knowing like you are fucking capable of doing it and you don't have to, who the fuck's gonna, who, like what's really gonna happen if you do it and it doesn't turn out exactly the way you think it is? Like what's really gonna happen? Like is anyone gonna be like, you fucking suck? No. If they did, tell that person to fuck off. You don't need that kind of shit in your life anyway. If somebody's really going to be that mean to you, bye. They're toxic anyway.
Well, and that goes back to like imposter syndrome, is people just care too much about what other people think. Like they just do. Like people and I'll be honest.
That's why I didn't go into the gym for like, I would sit in my car because I'm like, oh my God, people are going to walk in and people are going to be staring at me. Like, actually, no one gives a fuck. And you made friends. So turned out way differently than you thought it would.
literally the gym is a cesspool of insecurity. Like
exactly. That's why we're all there.
If you think about it, people that are on the Stairmaster trying to shred down for a show, they're worried. Like the people that look peeled and absolutely just diced and like shredded to the gills at the gym worry so much about what you think of them, because, and I guarantee you, in the mirror, they're telling themselves, you're so fat. Like you're not lean enough. You're not shredded enough. You don't have as many glute striations as X, Y, and Z person. Right. And it's like, they're worried about what you think about them. Meanwhile, this is your first time in the gym ever going to the dumbbell rack, which can be a super intimidating thing because there's a lot of like other guys, other girls in there that like look like they know what they're doing. But it's like, at the end of the day, like the people that are the most experienced or who might look the best care, if not as much, but more than what you think of them than they think of you. And it's like, it's just this entire cesspool of everybody's just insecure in their own way. And it's like, we all care what everybody thinks. We all do. Like I do. I care what, like in my own life, I care what people think. Right. Of course I preach the motto of like being unapologetically yourself. That's why I say be a fucking shark. Cause it's like, just don't give a fuck what people think. But it's like, to some extent, we all do care. It's just a matter of, are we going to allow that to then us not take action and to cripple us? Right. Cool. Yeah. I care what people think. Am I going to allow that to dictate my life and never move forward? I could. Right. Cool. Then I become victim. I never want to be. Right. Then I become, okay, well, I care too much about what people think. So what's the point? Like, why even bother? Why even try? Cool. You can take that route. Amazing. Let me know how that turns out for you. Or we can look at it like, despite what people think, I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Agree. Because it's not like we want to be completely apathetic and never care what people think. but it's just placing your fucks accordingly, right? Like just giving them out where they should be instead of where they not everywhere they shouldn't be.
Yep. Amen. Yeah.
So you just mentioned your own motto, and I wanted to bring that up because I think it's so cool and it's so very you. Like you're definitely, it's, I feel like known for, like I would almost introduce you like Rico the shark, like be a
I
Rico,
love
be a
that.
fucking shark, like that's what I'm gonna put in your bio for the
Well,
podcast.
I don't have a middle name. Fun fact. So if you
What?
want to put, I don't. So if you want to put Enrico, be a fucking shark, Incarnati, that works.
Dude, let's make it legal. Just hop right down to the Social Security
Can you
office.
actually?
Yeah, well, women can change their names. So how do you think you can do whatever you want?
Interesting.
I'm pretty
Yes,
sure you can do whatever you want. Let's Google it.
that'd be funny if I go to the airport and I just change my whole name to be a fucking shark. It's like, is Mr. Be a fucking shark here?
Enrico,
Yes, that's
be a
me. Thank
fucking
you.
shark.
That's me. Thank you. Yeah.
We've got your luggage.
Yeah. Yeah.
up
Okay.
front.
Thank you. I'll swim over there. Thank you. Yeah, that's
How
funny.
did when did that come up? Like when did that thought occur to you? Like where did you come up with that? And when did it start to just like take a life of its own?
Yeah. So a really good friend of mine, Tyler Babin, who used to be a videographer for Gary Vee, he posted on his Instagram, I believe it was October of 2019, or in the summer. I always mix the dates up. I need to look back. It might have been in the summer actually of 2019, and he posted a video on his Instagram feed that was, like, do sharks complain about Monday? It was a really well done
Mm.
video because obviously he's a creator and artist, and so he did a really good job. And he's like, do sharks complain about Monday? Like, no, they just get after it, like they just attack it, and so be a shark. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, I like that. I'm like, I want to put a spin on it. Be a fucking shark, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just add that F word in there because for me,
Yeah.
it was more emphatic. It hit more and it meant more to me. And so everything I did, like, I would just tell people, I'm like, this is my new motto, and it's just I worked it into my content. I worked it into my Instagram stories. I even made a background. I don't know if I can show it. Yep. So this is the background on my phone. It says "Be a fucking shark" right here. You can see
Yeah,
that.
I can see it.
And so that's like my motto. That's like my slogan, and soon to be apparel.
Oh,
And
what?
mhm.
I
and
like it.
so and so I embody that every day. And
Mm.
the main reason I say be a fucking shark is because it's a motto to empower you to keep swimming forward no matter what's happening. And you can't swim backwards in life because sharks, if they do, they die. They will physically die.
What?
That's so
What?
yep. Sharks can't swim backwards. They physically can't. If they need to go backwards, they have to physically turn around and go forward, right? And
I didn't
so
know
like
that.
they can't reverse. So
Fun
that's only
fact.
yeah. So it's only swimming forward, and so that's why I love that motto. And I just like sharks because they're just fucking badass, and I just they're unapologetically themselves every day, and that's it. That's why my motto is be a fucking shark.
They definitely kind of take messy action. Like it looks a little messy, right? Because it doesn't look like they're like completely on target, but then they somehow just open their big mouths and get the seal, jump out
So
of the
sick.
water, and they
So
just don't
sick.
care. They don't care how big a splash they make. Man, they just get
Nope.
after it. I like that. That's great.
Amen. Yeah.
What are you still working on for yourself, like personal growth wise? Like, what is something that you kind of still feel like you're developing or you want to develop in yourself?
So one thing I'm always trying to develop is my sense of self-awareness. And I feel at 25, I have a really good self-awareness for who I am, who I want to become, what I want to be, the father I want to become in the future, when I'm married, and just a lot of things that I've gone through in life of knowing what I don't want. That's given me clarity on what I do want, and so my
Mhm.
sense of awareness for the future and just my identity has become so much more clear. And so I'm always trying to work on that from a self-awareness perspective. I'm always trying to work on a articulation perspective. Like, I want to be able to articulate messages and speak better and not use as many filler words like or and
Mhm.
but and just
Same.
have a really good message for whatever that is. And so also from a personal growth side, like I've been taking more of a role of like being a mentor and coach for people as opposed to a creator slash, like, and again, not that I would ever give up being a filmer or editor because I love that with all my heart, but I love helping people on a one-on-one role where, like, I can guide them through, not necessarily be hands-on with it, but they can do it themselves. And, like, obviously if they want to work with me in that realm, like it's a whole nother conversation, but like
Mhm.
I enjoy that role of being someone that like people look at for guidance with that. And it's very, is gratifying, is that the word? Like, is it
Mhm.
a sense of gratitude? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gratifying.
it is.
And so for me, like that's something that I truly love. um and I mean, like another thing that I'm working on too that I've only told one person about is going back to therapy. And I stopped going to therapy because, to be fully honest, I was like, oh, I'm good. Like I feel okay. I don't feel like I need to go. But then again, we don't brush our teeth when we don't brush our teeth only when we need to. We do it every day so that, like for example, we don't brush our teeth when we get a cavity, right? You brush it every day so you prevent a cavity. And
Mhm.
so the way I look at therapy is the same way. Is like I want to continue going again, not because like I'm super anxious or out of whack or like depressed or anything. It's just for me, I know that if I have a consistent routine like that, someone who I can always check in with, for me, it's very grounding, right? And
Mhm.
so that's something that I wanted to do. Is I wanted to go back to therapy because for me, I know there's been a lot of changes in my life. There's going to be more changes in my life, and I just want to check in to make sure, like, yep, I'm going on the right path, right? And
Mhm.
so, even though for me, I know what the right path is, it's always good to have that outside perspective to be able to be like, okay, cool. Well, like 3 weeks ago, you said this, but now you're thinking this. Like, does that make sense to you? And it's like having someone like that, who knows nothing about me and nothing about my life, come in and be able to like, help me kind of point me in the right direction with stuff like that. And
Mhm.
for me to form conclusions on my own, and for me to form things on my own, like I need that. And so, yeah, that's from a personal growth side.
I think having an unbiased, I don't want to say like unbiased person, because obviously as they get to know you, they're not really biased, but they can like know your little things. And then
Yes.
again, like you said, like point you in the right direction. It's really nice to have that outside perspective, because sometimes you just don't see from the inside out very well, and somebody else can kind of look at that and then, like you said, just point you in the right direction. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about coaching too. And I've been an educator before in the lash industry, and it's like being able to kind of lay down the tracks for somebody and sort of guide them and also sort of push them off onto their own,
Yep.
and see them take that jump and hopefully succeed or figure out what it is that they want from there, because sometimes it's not always what they came in with, but
Mhm.
came in wanting. But if you can kind of, if maybe that just shows them that it's not for them, that's okay too.
Yep.
Because that could happen in the lash industry. It's like a pretty detailed service. Like you need a lot of patience for it, and sometimes it's not for everyone. But
Yeah.
being able to just sort of set people off on that path, like I love that too. And
Yeah.
I love seeing people come in with like a dream or like want to accomplish something, and I love like being there to be like, fucking do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it. It makes me so excited. So I'm super excited to get a cropped hoodie with "be a fucking shark" on it, is
Absolutely.
what I'm looking for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with black, but if you like threw a neon color in there, like I wouldn't be mad at it. I don't
I think I might keep it to black, mainly
know.
because like,
Seems very on brand.
yeah, it's on brand, but also like sharks are always swimming in the depths of the ocean where it's like
Mm.
pitch black. And
Mm-hmm.
so I like that, or if anything, like a real dark blue, like a royal
Mm.
crimson dark blue, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just a gray. I don't know, but like we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Fun things to come.
I know. I'm excited.
Yeah, I want a
So
beanie too. It gets cold where I live, so I need a
um
beanie too.
the
Just saying.
last TikTok video or the last Instagram video I posted, I had a hat on. It says be a fucking shark, but the U is, it has an asterisk for it because I was just testing out to see what it would look like. Instead
Yeah,
of it literally just saying be a fucking shark, it said BAF, asterisk
yeah,
CKING shark.
yeah,
So we'll see. I don't know.
yeah. So are there things in your daily life, like some people have morning routines, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you only do in the morning. Are there things that you do every day to sort of keep you taking care of yourself on the level that you need to be
Yeah.
Rico?
Yeah. So right now for the past 30 days, I'm doing a 30-day journal challenge to where every day for the next 30 days, I just journal and I'm checking in with myself, making sure that I'm okay, making sure that anything I need to just vent about, I vent about, making sure that I'm reminding myself what I'm grateful for every single day. And so for me, that helps me just be in tune with who I am, what I want. And it really just sets the tone for me for like whatever it is for the day. And it always brings me back to that, like that set point of who I need to be. And like I don't ever get too high or too anxious on stuff, or too low and too like in the weeds about stuff. Just stay kind of in the middle. And so that's something I've been doing every day. Another thing is I've been really on my fitness game. So that's getting workouts in, that's getting my nutrition in, being a lot more dialed in with it, but not restrictive, right? Because I don't like preaching restrictive stuff, even though I'm not a coach, but I get it. But like stuff like that for me has been super important. And honestly, just doing stuff that like reminds me of being a kid again, like helps a lot, right? Like whether that's watching funnier videos from the past, or like even just who I am, like with my immediate friends, is like just being silly and goofy and like just having fun and just shoot the shit about random stuff, I think just grounds you a lot. And so checking in with my friends and keeping that circle tight. And like, that's it. Like, I don't need much. Like, I really don't. As long as I got the gym, I'm cool. I got my laptop, my camera, like I can do a lot of damage. And so like, I'm good, you know?
Yeah, I actually kind of like TikTok for that reason.
There we go.
It must be what I'm following, but that's kind of like my laugh, like my brain relax, like doesn't take a whole lot to be hanging out on TikTok. Not a lot of thinking. It's not a lot going on.
Effortless.
Yeah, it's very effortless, which is also why it's a bit addictive. But and then the fact that you have to press out, like back out of it like 3 times just to get out of the damn app. But at least on an Android, you have to press the back button like 3 times. But I just kind of I love also seeing people, like regardless of why they're doing it, because some of it's more authentic than others, but some people are just, they're like really trying hard, and that's more power to you. But some people are just really having some fun. And when I first got on TikTok, when we were shut down here in 2020, that's when I first started getting on TikTok, and I was like, man, this is just so great. And like, people are just creating, and they're just doing funny things, and they're having fun with it. And some of those people are now like way bigger accounts because they were just acting like fools on a camera, or they get to show like a different side of themselves. And I think that's so fun. I think that's what the beauty of what it can be, instead of it being so contrite, or so what's the word? Not coordinated, not choreographed, but the word. It's not really contrived either, but just like planned, it's so like, so perfect. And
it's more freeing, I would say.
Yeah, it's more freeing. And in business, like it is nice to be able to finally be able to do that with yourself and like show a little bit of yourself. It makes it way more fun when you number one, when you have to find the medium, and you have to find like the delivery that is good for you to do that. Like, I love this fucking podcast so fucking much. Like, I love doing this. This is great. This is what I've been doing for 13 years with people in a room, one-on-one. It's just talking about whatever. Like, conversations could literally range from like the size of a guy's penis to like mental health within a span of like 30 minutes. This is fact. And I'm like, this is so great. Now I get to do this on a larger platform and just do the things that I've been doing. And in terms of like reels, I was like, wow, this is just my childhood dream come true. I used to just play in my room and like act things out, and I would dance in the front yard to music that only I could hear, because I had my disc. I would have like my Walkman, because I'm that old. I had a Walkman.
I don't even know what those are.
Oh my God. That's right.
I have no clue.
Do you remember what a Discman is? What a Discman is? A CD player, the little portable CD player.
Yeah, like a CD, or like I remember like a tape recorder player.
Right. So like there used to be cassette tapes of the normal size, which were about here. Okay. So they still sell them in like antique malls. Maybe that's a way, that's a really good way to like get in touch with a different side of time. It's like cassette tapes. And you put it in like the thing that was like the CD players.
Oh my God.
I'm fucking explaining this right now.
Yeah, you lost me. All I have is I just put my AirPods in and it connects to my Bluetooth. Okay, that's all I do.
So my car got broken into. Well, it didn't really get broken into because I left the fucking thing unlocked accidentally. And the only thing I was really sad about were my sunglasses because I really loved those sunglasses. But they took my like 20-year-old fucking iPod that I gave two shits about. I'm like, oh, have fun with an iPod 5 or whatever, Nano or whatever
They're
they
like,
call
we
them.
will.
Like, thanks for leaving the Garmin GPS in there. That's like the actual GPS that no one uses anymore. So you remember that. Okay. Well, that's about the size of a Walkman. And then we would have like the little wraparound, like ear headphones, not like Beats, but like the little ones. And I would dance in the front lawn to like Madonna, Mariah Carey. They're still around. So still alive.
I'm not that young. I know who they are.
Mariah was going through her awakening around the time that you were born.
Jesus.
She was going through actually that might have been around the time that she was like having her little meltdown, but she came back. It's all good. Anyway, so reels have like become that sort of that outlet for me, especially when I was doing more stretch breaks. I was in a different studio. It was like better lit than the one I am now. I haven't done them for a while and I kind of miss it because that was like my outlet for kind of that childlike part of Abby, just making something fun and not really like taking it too seriously, because sometimes we take something so seriously that we like, oh, I can't do it because again, it's not perfect. And it's like, just be you, dude. Just be you. Like, look at all these people on fucking TikTok dancing around like fools. And like, they're probably getting ads or something. I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're having a lot of fun. And I think we could all use a little bit more of that. And that was really my whole TikTok rant, was somehow it led off into talking about Walkmans. And I'm going to have to Google a picture and send it to you.
I'm gonna look. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up right now.
We're gonna look for one on eBay. I'm gonna ask my mom if she still has mine.
Walkman CD player.
Oh my god, no, just a Walkman tape player. They were called CD players were called Discmans, and Walkmans were the tape, cassette tape, and not like a little tiny tape recorder. Do you know how I used to make playlists, Rico?
How?
I used to listen to the radio, and I'd have a blank tape in there. Yeah. Mine was black. I used to listen to the radio. Yep. Pretty similar. Yep. Wow. I used to listen to the radio, and whenever the hot song came on, like, this is how we do it. That one, right? I would hit record really fast. And that's how I would and then you would stop after the song came off or it was ended. And then that's how you would make a mixtape. That's how you made mixtapes. Or I think you could do the thing if you had like a dual, you could like maybe play it from one and record. I don't know, maybe I'm making shit up now. That's how you made playlists, your own mixtapes back in the day, was you listen to the radio and you had to sit there and listen to like the top 10. And then along came LimeWire and all that cool shit.
Yep, LimeWire, FrostWire.
Thank the Lord, Spotify, which is my world. So
I love Spotify. Now I make my own playlists and mixtapes.
Oh my gosh. Right, exactly. Yes. Now we can just carry them around with us wherever we go. Makes life so beautiful. Amen. I love that my podcast is on there. That was like the dream. I know Apple's like the place, but like to see myself on Spotify, I'm like, oh my God. I've been a Spotify subscriber for like 10 years now. So like, this is just awesome. That's like the peak.
I love that. That's awesome.
I mean, like, let's hope it's the peak for now, right? Yeah. Anyway.
That's cool. That's awesome.
So you stay pretty busy, I feel like, traveling a lot.
Yeah.
How do you work in like your romantic relationships, or is that really a priority for you right now?
Not really. Like, I mean, I'm just more focused on me right now.
Yeah.
For me, like dating wise, like I don't know. I mean, I've in the past, I've chased that. And so every time I have, like, I've lost sense of myself. I guess I would say, like, for me in the past, it's been a weird thing. Like I've been in a couple relationships and I've had my guard up since, just because like, I don't want to get fucked over type thing. I value my time extremely. So like that for me is something that like, I'd have to be willing to give up, right? Like I'd have to be willing to give up certain parts of my life. Again, priorities, right? And so I'd have to be okay with that. Or
we set some non-negotiables and we see who falls in line with that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think everybody should do that. I think everybody, and it's from a like, I think there should be non-negotiables like in every romantic relationship or however relationship, like there needs to be boundaries and non-negotiables. I almost
Yeah.
forgot the word you said.
Yeah. It's just a
Just
way of
because
like having standards,
yeah, and like
which I could have used a long time ago.
yeah, same. And like for me, where my standards are right now, I will not go lower for anyone. I don't care who you are. I know what I want. I know what I need as well. Like not
Mhm.
from you, not from like an external, because I've dealt with my like I've been so okay with myself and so like good with myself, that like I know I'll be good no matter what. So someone coming into my life is an addition, right?
Mhm.
It's not a I'm depending on that because I'm good
Mhm.
independently. And I think everyone should get to a point like that, to where you're so good independently on yourself that when someone is introduced into your life, it's just an addition, right? Like you can coexist because independently you're great, but then when you're together, it's even better because you've done the work to be so good on your own
Mhm.
that when it comes together, it's amazing because you know if it doesn't work out, again, God forbid, God willing, knock on wood, that it goes well, you're gonna be okay, you know?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so and to be honest with you, like the first time when I went to therapy, like ever, it was at school, and I had just gotten on my first relationship, right? And I was like, what do I do? Like I was so dependent on like everything she did. I was like, oh God, like I don't know who I am. Like what do I
Mhm.
do? Like I'm panicking. I'm like, oh my God. Now I look at it now and I'm like, you fucking pathetic, you know?
Well, it
Um,
is what it is, right? Like
right.
I'm
But
not,
but
and
it,
I don't want to be like, I'm not trying to like placate or anything, but I am not in my 20s anymore. I'm a little beyond that.
you're
But
young. You're
it's
still young.
young enough, but young at heart. And
You're young.
it just feels like the 20s are such a formative time of your life. And I'm not saying the 30s have not been either, but there's definitely like a different sense of self, it feels like. And I just think that there's things you got to go through in your 20s. And I mean, it just is that's how we live life. That's how we learn and that's how we grow. And you are like, so, I mean, you're so much more self-aware, and just being aware of that and that past relationship. It's like, well, now you can take that and you can grow with it, and
Yeah.
you obviously
And
like want to keep growing yourself. And so
right.
I think that's important for a lot of people too. And it's good to recognize that now, so that you're not just constantly spinning your wheels, losing yourself in like every person, every girl that like comes along, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did that like even last year, like 2019, where you kind of just like I don't necessarily like attach myself to anyone, but like how do I say this? So because I was in another relationship, it ended early 2020, and so I had to do a lot of healing from that too.
Mm-hmm.
And like then you get on the Bumble, fucking Hinge and Tinder, and I'm like, all right, let's see like who I can find, whatever, you know what I mean? Just because it's like it wasn't like, oh, I want to be alone and I need to like actually take care of myself. It's like I don't want to be lonely, and
Mm-hmm.
like so I want to find someone, right? And it's like there's just so many empty fucking things out there because it's like you're not in a good place, and so even if you find the right person, it's like it doesn't feel whole because it's like it's just empty because you're not content with yourself with where you're at, and like you did some wounds and whatnot. And so I don't know. I'm also not a big fan of dating apps. I think they're fucking stupid. That's just me. Like anyone I've ever met has been through Instagram, just because it's like they get a feel for who I am.
I could talk about dating apps for quite a while. I don't want to just throw them in the garbage like as a whole. I think that there are ways to use them, and but I also like I've been on them a lot and things have changed a lot too. And there's definitely like that instant gratification, swipe culture, the like what's next, never settle, like fuck me. I like fucking hate it sometimes. But it can be a
Yeah.
tool that people can use to meet new people. I think that it's all about intention, like in life, but it's all about intention and what are you using it for, and why do what are you there for? What are your goals? And just knowing. I mean, a lot of my funny conversations have come from dating apps. So, I mean, they do give us at least a little bit of entertainment.
Yeah.
Mixed
Yeah.
in with the sugar daddy DMs on Instagram.
Oh God, mixing with the feet and hand pics. God.
Well, let me give you $400 a week. I'm like, for what? For me to talk to you? Nothing.
Well,
It's
what
gonna
did they
take more
want?
than that. Yeah, I don't know. I never take it that far. I just like fuck with them a little bit and then put it
Well,
on
you should.
blast. Put it. I
You
mean, I
should.
like to put it on blast. I'm like, that's it. Oh well, I'll give you 600. Like I'm fucking worth more than that. And then I just
Well,
like to put it on my stories and make everyone laugh.
yeah, but hang on. You should make a game out of this. You should literally like when you get a DM, just try to be like, well, listen, I have someone else offering me $2,000 a week. So like again, like I totally appreciate your message, but like if we really want to do this for real, like again, they're coming in at 2,000, you're coming in at 400, like that's a little weak. Like
Yeah.
I can maybe guarantee you a spot at 5K a week.
You're a
But
spot.
like, yeah, but like again, like I'm entertaining other offers and like I want to make sure that like, this is a good working relationship. And so if you want to be a considered candidate, like it's gonna need to be up to 5,000 just because I know what I provide. I mean, my feet and hand picks are gonna be top notch, like you won't get this anywhere else. But that's what it is.
I always love when somebody else like comes into the mix on that because I'm like, wow, I really could play this up so much more than I do. But the fact is that I
Yeah.
just really don't have time for all that conversation, like for a
Yeah.
spam bot.
Yeah.
But it does crack me up.
Yeah.
What do you like to listen to? Podcasts, audiobooks? Do you like to read? What's your
I haven't
style?
read in a minute. I do like to read. I like to read physical books just because I like the act of turning a page. Audiobooks, not a big fan of it. Podcasts, here or there. Like I've listened to enough podcasts to understand what I need to do.
Mhm.
Right? It's like I've listened to enough. I mean, I've been around Gary Vee and I know exactly what I need to do. It's like I don't need to continue listening to stuff. It's like I know what I need to do already.
But
Um,
what about for entertainment?
I don't really get entertainment out of podcasts.
Hmm.
I would rather watch YouTube videos.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Well, let's go that way. Like, who do you like
Yeah.
to watch on YouTube?
On YouTube, I like to watch a lot of Justin Bieber videos. I enjoy watching like his live concerts, and I
Hmm.
enjoy singing along to them because I'm a massive Bieber fan. That's why I have
Yes,
the purpose
that's
tattoo.
right. Yes.
Um, and
Anytime I
so I
anytime
love
I hear Justin
him.
Bieber, I immediately think of you.
Massive Bieber fan. My goal is to film for him.
Oh, that'd be super cool. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to happen. I know it will.
Every time I hear him, I think of you.
Good,
And
as everyone should. As everyone should.
yes. But that's the cool thing. Like, listen, this is called, well, it's you being you, but it's also a personal brand. Bieber, cannolis, sharks.
And espresso.
And espresso, but like also really fucking killer photography and
And
videographer
videos.
skills. Yeah.
Thank you.
And like the fact that you thought that you were like, should I set up my camera instead of having my laptop camera or whatever you have on your laptop? Like, yes, that's you. Set up your fucking camera.
Yeah. I'm like,
You know,
I would.
you would feel more comfortable having like the representation of what you fucking do for a
Yes.
living. Like, absolutely.
Well, also like I want to be able to provide good quality video for someone like you or like
Mhm.
whoever it is, right? Like however you want to use this, whatever you want to do with it. Like I want to be able to have a good clip for you, right? Or like
Yeah.
I want you to have good video and whatnot. But like, yeah, I mean that's that's it's me,
Which I totally appreciate. Yeah.
You're welcome. That's
Anyway,
cool. I love
who
that.
who else do you like vibe on YouTube? It's mostly Bieber. We got it.
Yeah, Justin Bieber, Pat McAfee, if you know him, he used to be a
Mm-mm.
punter for the Indianapolis Colts,
Oh,
and
okay.
he has his own like show on YouTube and everything. And I love his content. I'm trying to see who else do I like on YouTube. Sports Wars, which they react to sports and stuff, which is kind of cool. I don't really consume much lately. Like I haven't been consuming
Yeah.
much YouTube.
Mhm.
Throttle House, which is they review cars like in depth and it's super well done.
Mhm.
So I think that's super sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, well, Bieber is like I mean,
Love Bieber.
that's gonna fill like a lot of things for you. Obviously, it fills your cup. So,
I love Bieber.
and I love music, and I have certain artists that do that for me too. So I understand that a lot. Can
That's
relate.
awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Where do you draw inspiration from now? Like in your earlier days, you said it was Christian Guzman on YouTube. Like now, is there something that like, or do you just kind of see things a certain way in terms of like photography and videography? Is there something that like inspires you?
Yeah, I mean, I follow like other creatives, other photographers, other videographers and stuff, who I draw inspiration from. But I also have to be careful, right? Because I don't ever want to compare myself to where they're at, or compare myself from a creative perspective to where it takes away from what I do. And so I always limit myself with the consumption, because I always want to make sure I'm creating more than I'm consuming. But yet consuming helps me create because it gives me an idea.
Sure.
So I think it's important to have a healthy relationship with your consumption versus your creativity. And so I really like Roy Kramer, who he actually films for Justin Bieber right now. And he's like 38, I think, but he's an inspiration because I'm like, oh shit, like if I'm 25 right now, imagine where I could be at that age. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's like super cool, even just to see what I've been able to do in like the past 4 years. And I'm so fucking grateful. So he's someone I look up to, and I always try to keep in contact with on DM. I mean, I'm really good friends with D-Rock, who's Gary's videographer, who I never in a million years would have thought I ever met. And the fact that I have his number, and like it's so fucking cool to me. Love him. Tyler Babin, who's another great creative. He used to film for Gary. He now films for Hassan Minaj, who's a comedian. And yeah, I mean, I keep my circle tight. I really do. Like I don't try to allow any outside voices that I don't need to, that take away from what I do or who I want to serve, because I'm super passionate about this fitness space, and I want to continue to dominate it, and I want to have more of an impact in it, and I want to really leave my mark and be known as the guy in fitness, or like the person in fitness, whether it's video, photo, whatever that is, and be able to help coaches, trainers, YouTubers, Instagrammers, whatever, like really just to be able to leave my mark everywhere, anywhere that I can, and to be able to just have an impact in people's lives and allow them to make more money or reach more people, whatever, like that fills my cup most. And so, I mean, I've been able to do it with some of the best people and arguably in the space. And I want to continue to do that, on a macro, micro level, and just, in any way that I can.
Cheers to that.
Amen.
I'm excited.
Thank you.
It's so fun. It's been so fun getting to know you, because I think I was like intimidated to meet you.
Really?
Yeah, because I was like, oh my gosh, she's fun for Jordan Syatt. Like, I was like,
oh my
I
God.
was like excited and like intimidated. Like, you're so down to earth. You're so cool. Like, yeah, you're like, hey, pop me, like, ask me any questions you need, like, whatever. And I've told people that people that I talk to don't always know who I'm talking about, but I'm like, he's so cool. Like, if you ever have any questions, like, just hop in his DMs. Like, he is friendly, like.
Yeah. I don't bite. I say be a fucking shark, but I won't attack you.
You're like one of those sharks that's like gonna ignore people for the most part. Like,
yeah.
Well, I love that, and I'm excited to see your growth and like where you take everything, and your apparel line. Is that the only thing that you've got coming out, or you got more?
I do have more. So I'm going to be speaking at an event in December, which would be super cool. I've mentioned it to about 3 people, about something that I'm going to come out with. And I think it will revolutionize the video content creation space in the fitness world. And I think it'll, I think, let's just say I will make sure that this is my best piece of work ever. And it will allow other coaches, other trainers, to continue furthering their impact, their reach, be able to make the content they want, make it super easy, make more money because of it, and build an audience.
I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yay. So am I. I'm like, this is like something that I'm like extremely passionate about. And obviously, like, continuing to grow my Facebook group right now, which I have a goal to hit 1,000 people by the end of the month. And I know that'll happen. And then by the end of the year, I want to hit 2.5K on it. So that's the goal.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm just excited. Like, again, I love seeing people like find what they're so passionate about and then just fucking go for it.
Thank you.
So if there's one thing that you want to tell the audience today, what is that one thing?
That's a great question, Abby.
Really? Kind of thought I knew the answer, but all right.
Oh, you know the answer. The answer is to be a fucking shark. Simple as that. The answer is to be a fucking shark. The answer is to live every single day as if you are not as if. It's to live every single day as who you want to be unapologetically yourself, to keep moving forward in life, because there's a reason that the front mirror in your car is bigger than the rear view mirror, because there's more in your horizon as opposed to in the fucking rear view mirror, right? And so keep moving forward, keep swimming forward, keep being a fucking shark. Don't look backwards, don't swim backwards, because that will kill you. And at the end of the day, be a good person, right? Give without expectation. Because I think when we do that, then we place expectations and we expect to receive things, and we don't. It's not genuine. So give without expectation. Say please and thank you. Be a good human being. I'm attracted to people who have manners and who treat waiters, treat plumbers, treat servicemen, whoever you are, as equal as to a CEO, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. So be a good fucking person, because the world needs more of that. Drop your fucking ego and be a fucking shark.
Be a good, kind fucking shark.
That's it.
There's a way to do it.
Be a good, kind, unapologetic shark.
That's right. I love
Done.
it. That's the new longer slogan.
Yeah. It's like a book. That'll be a book title. Be a kind, good, unapologetic shark. By Enrico Incarnati.
But like people are good, but they would remember that because it's a long one, but it's a fun one.
It is. That's a freaking novel. It'll be good.
Well, tell everyone where they can connect with you.
Yeah.
On social media.
I will. So
wherever.
You can connect with me on Instagram. If it comes back up, Rico.Incarnati, and then on TikTok, Rico Incarnati. You can also add me on Facebook at Enrico Incarnati. Come join my Facebook group, which is Video Content Made Simple, and I will promise you will be better at making video content. I will make you become a fucking shark at making video content, and that's where you can hang out. That's where you can come support me. You can go watch my first YouTube video on my YouTube channel. Just type in my name, it'll pop up, and that's it.
I love it. Rico, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, just chatting about everything. It's a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah, I'll see you later. And there you have it. What a fun conversation with Rico. I always enjoy my chats with him, and we went through a lot there, but it's mainly don't let the outside influences impact you so much that it stops you from taking action and sharing your gifts with the world. And if taking action with your health is something that you're thinking about for 2022, and you're thinking that you would like to get past where you feel like you always get stuck, if you're feeling blocked, if you're feeling like you just don't know how to stay consistent and you feel very overwhelmed by like everything you feel like you need to do in order to be healthy and love your body, then let's chat. Simply click the link in the episode notes to set up a time to chat with me, and let's see if we're a good fit. I've got an amazing program that will be coming out at the beginning of the year that's going to dive deep, but also help allow you to move past what's been holding you back so that you can get into that love of yourself and your body. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Avio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra lap once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.